So I just dug this hole for our little plant who is going to be a nice lovely shrub soon. A few things that you need to think about when you're digging a hole is that it needs to be twice the width of it so that it has plenty of room to grow, and the same depth. Looks like I've dug this hole a little bit too deep. It needs to be the same depth as the plant so that the plant doesn't have to try too hard to get stuff that it needs, like water. As I just said, that our hole needs to be just as deep, but it also needs to be twice as wide so that our lovely little plant can squish out as much as it needs to acclimatize with its new setting, because it's used to being in this little pot with all this kind of soil, but we're gonna put it in the ground with this different kind of soil, and so we put it in with soil that's much looser than what is over here, and it gives it time to acclimatize and grow into its surroundings naturally. Another thing that's very important is breaking up the walls. So when you dig straight down, it's really common to scrape the walls flat so that they're straight down. What you need to do after you've dug the hole is to break it up. You can just use the front of your spade, or you can use shears or just your fingers so that it's not as hard for the roots to get into the walls. Okay, so what I just did, I filled in the bottom of the hole with my loose dirt so that it would be level, and then I just dropped my shovel across it to see how level it was. This is perfect because the shovel is on a level with each side of the hole, and it tells me that this is right at the perfect height. So that's a handy dandy trick. So the next step in our planting process is removing our plant from its pot. Obviously in a tree, it's a much different process. If you have a tree, say this big around, what you do is you flop it on its side and you either punch it to loosen it enough to pull it out, or you just roll it with the heels of your hands back and forth to get it loose enough to pull it out. But clearly, jumping on or punching this would be a little bit cruel. So instead what we're gonna do is just loosen it a little bit, because I just tried lightly pulling this out to see if it would move, but it's not. So you just turn this around like this to loosen it up just enough to get it out. Not too much because you don't want to hurt it, and then jimmy it out like this, letting the loose soil fall into your hole. Whoa, we have roly-polies. This is clearly a healthy ecosystem in here. We've got roly-polies. I just saw a worm go in there. Looks like we got a centipede. Clearly a very healthy ecosystem. One thing that you do want to check though before you plant is whether or not you have circling roots. Oh look, there goes a wormy. Is whether or not you have circling roots. Those will be really easy to tell if you have them. They're like big white lines that go around, and they'll choke your plant because they'll just continue growing in that pattern. We don't have any. This is very healthy, loose soil. If you do have those strangling roots, it sounds mean, but I promise it's not. You get a spade, a trowel, pruning shears, and cut through it, because that will damage it, not enough to kill it, but just enough that the plant has to regrow those roots, and it'll grow them out because it's no longer constrained to the little pot. The next thing that I'm going to do is tickle it, and that's really simple to do. It's like the less invasive version of the root cutting. For when you have healthy roots, you just reach in and tickle it so that they come out. Now comes the time to plant our little shrub friend. Whew. He's a dirty little buddy. Your last step is to fill in the hole with all the dirt that you've collected. And that's one thing when you're like digging holes with little kids. Don't let them just fling it all over the place, because you're gonna need that to fill the hole back in. You don't want to use external dirt like potting soil, because it will confuse the plant, because it has the soil that's already in the pot, as well as the potting soil, as well as the outside soil, and it can make the plant grow more slowly. So just after you've loosened it, let all the loose stuff that you've tickled out of your plant fall into the hole. Fill it in with all the soil that you dug out. Make sure that it's even. This is a thing that a lot of people do, is they'll push down on it to make it really tight and compact. Don't do that. It makes it harder for the water to get in, and it makes it harder for the roots to grow out.